Oh. Hey, I don't know whether I decided to film in this location because I just wanted a nice black background, or whether I just wanted to be uncomfortable to make sure I didn't talk to you guys too long. Ooh, no. I tipped over the books and I have a can of energy drink sitting next to it. It's like recipe for disaster. The books are stable again. Am I even in frame? I hope so. Maybe I need to move a little bit. Did I move? Hey guys, Clio here, and today I'm doing an unhaul. So today I'm going through the 50 remaining unread books on my shelves. Yay! I only have 50 unread books left on my shelves before reaching 0 TBR, which is definitely not happening in 2021, in case you're wondering. It's happening in 2022, hopefully. But so, because I started this process about 2 years ago, I think, and I haven't done a sort of like serious unhaul since November last year, I think it's about time to take another look at these books and see, over the course of the past years, which one have I been excited about reading, which one have I considered reading, which ones haven't I. And basically the way I kind of want to be thinking about this is that if nowadays I were to go into the bookstore and all these books were there, if I had like an endless budget, let's say, would I want to pay full price for this book? Would I at this point in time pick this book up full price or not? I'm not gonna say that there aren't a few books that might slip through for which I wouldn't really pay full price right now, but I will kind of explain my reasons for those, I guess, when I get around to them. But so, first up, I have a lot of piles in front of me with books, but the one that I'm going to go through immediately, because they are all going to be yes, are the books that I'm currently reading and the books that are on my November TBR. So that would be Congo by David van Rijbroek, The Periodic Table of Feminism, Love at a Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, and Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. So these are automatically going through because, I'm reading them, or, I clearly have intentions of getting around to it immediately. But all of these other ones will have to go through a little bit longer maybe, though for the ones that I'm going to say yes to, I think for the vast majority of them, I'll just really be like, yes, and that's it. I'm not going to say a whole lot more because there isn't necessarily more to say about them. So, starting with And the Mountain Echoed by Khaled Hosseini, yes. The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington, yes. Actress by Anne Enright. This is a book that I should have looked into the author a little bit more when I bought this one. I basically bought this one because it was kind of on the radar for the Booker Prize at some point in time. I think it also landed on the Women's Prize long list at some point in time. And I heard Eric Carl Anderson talk about it and he really enjoyed it. But the problem is I've already read an Anne Enright and I didn't like it. And I should have looked into it because, I don't like Irish literature. This is an Irish author and I've had a lot of occasions, or at least 6 occasions or so, I guess, where I picked up a book by an Irish author and didn't enjoy it. I think I've only read one book by an Irish author that I actually enjoyed. So would I, knowing all of that, pick this book up in the bookstore at this point in time? Nope. Should also clarify at this point that all the books that are going in the no pile, I'm going to basically do a try chapter tag with them. I don't think it'll be in this video. I think I'll do a separate video for this one. If not, surprise, I'm doing it in this video. But I think I'll probably do it in another video to keep this one relatively short, hopefully. The Spy by Paolo Cujo. It's another maybe in the sense that I have interest in this book. This is a book about Mata Hari, who was a French spy, I think. Or she was a spy at the time that the French were occupying Egypt, I think. Yeah, it doesn't say a whole lot, but I'm very interested in that. I'm very interested in finding out more about her. But I reread The Alchemist, which I thought was an all-time favorite, and which turned out to be a big disappointment upon reread at a later stage of my life. So I don't know, but it is a pretty short one, so I'm gonna keep it. Captain Corelli's Mandolin is another one that I'm gonna put in the yes pile, even though would I buy it full price nowadays? maybe not, but I do think I want to give it more than just a chapter chance. It is a book that my mother really absolutely adores, and that I think that I probably will as well. The Children Act by Ian Mcewen is one of the shortest books on my TBR, but I don't really have much of an interest, I think, in Ian Mcewen. Not in the sense that it's not a priority, basically. Like, if I were to go to the bookstore nowadays, this wouldn't be a book that I'm picking up now. I bought this book right after reading On Chesil Beach by him, which I really enjoyed a whole lot. And so at that point in time, I was like, oh, let me pick up another Ian Mcewen, and which was a short one, but still in the over 1 year period in which I've had this book, I have never considered picking this up. The only reason why I've considered picking it up is because it's one of the shortest books on my TBR. So if I didn't have the zero TBR projects in which I know that I'm going to get around to it like within a year probably, this would be the type of book that would be sticking around for years and years on my shelf. So I think it needs to go into the no pile. Around the World in 80 Days and 5 Weeks in a Balloon by Jules Verne, yes. A Farewell to Arms, Hemingway is another one of these authors. I don't know why I bought this book. I even bought it like regularly in the bookstore. It's not like a secondhand book or anything like that, but I have read another Ernest Hemingway, which is The Old Man and the Sea, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. And I guess I bought it to give Ernest Hemingway another chance, but at this point in time I'm like, but out of all the classics that I do have an interest in, this really isn't one of them. And so why would I read this just to give Ernest Hemingway another chance? If I were to go into bookstores nowadays, I wouldn't buy it, so this means it needs to go into the no pile. Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, yes. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, yes. Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. My most recent experience with John Williams was so-so, but I'm definitely still keeping this one. The Ministry of Utmost Happiness by Arundhati Roy. This is... Would I buy it full price now in the bookstore? No. I would buy The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. So I'm going to put it in a no pile because I did start the audio for The God of Small Things at some point in time, but I just couldn't focus on it. And so I think I need to give this one a go in a try chapter tag before I decide on it. Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, yes. One of the big shames on my TDR is S by J.J. Abrams, because I bought this one at a very steep price when it like just came out, I think, and it is still on my TBR because it's just so damn intimidating. But yes, this one is sticking around. One I got pretty much around the time when it came out is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi. This is the lowest rated book on my TBR, which is the reason why it's still sticking around. And I basically have mainly just seen negative stuff about it. I think the only positive I have, and the only reason why I'm still hanging on to it, or why I still have an interest in reading it, is that Emma from Drinking by My Shelf read it, and like the first time she didn't like it, but the second time she did. But I'm not giving this book 2 tries, for example, so try chapter tag it is. Northwest by Zadie Smith, yes. The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens, yes. Atonement by Ian Mcewen, nope. This one is definitely one for the no pile, because aside from the fact that I gave you that whole explanation about Ian Mcewen earlier, I also have already seen the movie for this one and didn't particularly enjoy the movie a whole lot. So this is basically only there because it cost me €5 only. Trainspotting by Irvin Welsh is also going on the no pile. I do definitely have an interest in this one. I have never seen the movie, and so I want to read the book before I do that. But it is written in Scots, and I have already tried it. I started it like, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe already at this point, and I just really struggled with that. I just had to put so much effort into it, and as a consequence I'm constantly putting it off now. So I really need to just give it another go, at least try this first chapter to see how easily or how difficult it is for me to try and get through that Scots and then make my decision. The Lost World and Other Stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, yes. The New York trilogy by Paul Auster survived last year's try chapter tag, and I do still want to read it. It has actually been sitting around in my living room waiting for me to be able to pick it up. It hasn't been on the shelf for a few weeks already. It's really been waiting for me to pick it up, so it's a definite yes. And then, meanwhile, in Dopamine City by DBC Pierre, yes. This is a book that I was super excited about when I bought it, and we are over a year later and I still haven't read it, but I still really want to read it. An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro, definite yes. The Leopard by Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa. I bought this one because I wanted to read classics from different languages than English, and so this was one of them. This was for Italian. I am now procrastinating on it because I have seen the movie. My colleague is Italian. He invited me to go and see the movie, and I did definitely enjoy that movie, but it is also like a super slow moving movie. It's very much sort of like focusing on characters. There isn't really much of a plot to it, and so as a result I've also been procrastinating on that one, even though I know that I enjoy those types of stories as well. I don't need a plot to enjoy a story, but for some reason I'm just like thinking like, oh, I don't feel like reading a super slow character based book right now, and so I never read it, even though it is very much possible that I will actually enjoy this, and I'm gonna keep it around because that initial reason still holds. I do still want to read classics from different languages, so I'm keeping it. Heat and Other Stories by Joyce Carol Oates. Basically, I got this for like €1. This is basically a discard from my local library. And would I buy it full price? No. I bought this one because of Eric Carl Anderson, who I've mentioned earlier in this video as well. And so he's also known as the Lonesome Reader, and Joyce Carol Oates is basically his favorite author. But I think if I'm gonna read a Joyce Carol Oates, I will probably do her more justice by reading a full-length novel, because that is just the type of storytelling that I prefer. And so unless this is gonna be like a groundbreaking short story, probably it might not really make me excited to read another Joyce Carol Oates the way that a full-length novel might do. So this is going into the no pile. I'll read the first story here and then I'll decide. The Mysterious Flame of Queen Loana by Umberto Eco. If I were to go into the bookstore nowadays, would I buy this book full price? No. I would buy The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which is one of his works that I'm more excited about. And probably I wouldn't even buy an Umberto Eco full price, because I think it's this type of author that one day I want to read, but I'll probably never prioritize in my life, so I'll probably end up never reading him. So it's going on the no pile. Mole Flanders by Daniel Defoe, yes. Emperor of the Eight Islands by Leon Hearn. Basically this is the fantasy on my shelf that I have the least interest in, but I'm still gonna keep it on the yes pile. Cleopatra by Alberto Ancela. This is basically a non-fiction that I am counting for my TBR, even though my TBR shouldn't really include a lot of non-fiction, but this one is definitely a yes. Het Huis van de Moskee by Kader Abdallah, keeping it. Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey. Basically, I think this one is just on there for that Booker Prize sticker, and because of the fact that I have read a Peter Carey and I enjoyed that one. But it's also not like I thought it was a masterpiece or something like that. You know, I had to read it for school, for post-colonial literature, and I do remember really enjoying it, but not to the extent that I was like, oh, this is an author that I need to read more by. So basically, this one, I think it was also probably something that I didn't get firsthand. It also has like super dark pages, so I think I definitely got it secondhand, and probably wouldn't buy full price. So it's going on the no pile also because I don't actually know what it's about. The Diving Pool by Yoko Ogawa is a book that I didn't have to pay anything for because I saved it from a friend who was doing an Unhaul. But yes, I am still very much interested in this one. War and War by Laszlo Krasznahorka is definitely a book that I bought full price. I was very much excited about it based on the sort of like back of it, which is saying that this is like a famous Hungarian author, and so I have never read anything by a Hungarian author, so I said like, ooh, I want to give that a go. But it is like one of the few books I didn't get around to in my 2020, I think, 12 books to read in 2020 list, and I haven't really considered reading it in the past year, but I do want to read more translated literature. But it is about war, which I don't really like all that much. I'll put it in the maybe, so in the no pile for now, and then the try chapter tag will determine what I do with it. Here we go. This is probably one of the more controversial ones in here, and that is Awaking God by Sylvan Neuvel. I bought Sleeping Giants before joining BookTube. I bought it. Then I bought Waking Gods before having read Sleeping Giants. Then I read Sleeping Giants, which basically was a sort of like 5-star prediction for me. I was so excited about that premise. I was like, oh, I'm gonna absolutely love it. And I didn't absolutely love it. I thought it was so. I wasn't all that excited about it. So if I would have just bought Sleeping Giants, read it, and then gone into a bookstore and seen Waking Gods, I would not have bought it. So no pile. The Pickwick Papers by Charles Dickens, easy. I have a goal of reading all Dickens' works, so yes. The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnhem, yes. Beijing Coma by Matt Yen, yes. Tender as a Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I have read The Great Gatsby. I thought The Great Gatsby was great. I didn't love it the way that some booktubers do, and as a result, I also have never really considered that I wanted to read another F. Scott Fitzgerald. Basically, this edition was available in some sort of like book fair, and I do have multiple classics that I bought there at that time just to expand my classics editions or like my classics collection. A lot of them have already dwindled down in previous unhauls. A lot of them I've already said goodbye to at that point in time. This one I have kept around, but in the past year I've had zero interest in it. And I also never hear anybody talk about any other F. Scott Fitzgeralds, for example, aside of The Great Gatsby. So would I buy this full price in the bookstore? No, so it's going into the no pile. Pachinko by Min-Jing Lee, absolutely yes pile. On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, yes. The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen, Hermes, Gowar. So this is another one that I saved from that same friend. So she was also getting rid of this one, and because of its gorgeous cover, I was like, no, don't get rid of that one, give it to me. But honestly, I didn't even know what the premise was. Just that it had kind of done the rounds at some point in time. Mainly just like marketing wise. I don't think I saw a lot of people talk about this book or that I know a lot of people's reactions to this book. But basically based on the premise, would I pick this up now at full price? Definitely not. I picked this up because I could get it for free and because it's gorgeous, but that's not good enough of a reason. So I need to put it in the no pile and figure out, based on that first chapter, how I feel about it. For Whom the Bell Tolls, another Ernest Hemingway that is going into the no pile. I actually was planning on reading one of those two Ernest Hemingways for another video, but if I leave that off of that video, basically I can get that video out to you guys lots quicker, for example, and it's a shitty reason to keep a book around is just because I had a video concept in which this book fits. The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne, yes. Like, I guess if we use the criteria like very strictly, then I should say that if I had to pay full price for this nowadays, I probably wouldn't. Probably would wait until I've read Around the World in 80 Days. But I have read two Jules Verne in the past and really enjoyed those. So it is a book that I am pretty confident that I'll be enjoying. The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen is kind of a doubt in the sense that I'm very much intimidated by its length, and I am, like, I've considered unhauling it a few times, but every time that I look at the premise, I'm like, oh yeah, but I do want to read that one. So knowing that it is going to be part of a very much shorter collection, I'm sure that at some point I just have to overcome my intimidation with this book and just get around to it. And then decide if after, I don't know, 70 pages I'm not enjoying it, then I can put it down. But I actually think that I might really enjoy this one. And as I said, I am interested in that premise. Every time that I've wanted to unhaul it, I've kept it around after reading the back and being like, oh yeah, no, I do want to read this one. So, and then we get to the final book, which is Your Story, My Story by Connie Palman. This wasn't translated when I originally bought it. It has been translated this year, at the beginning of the year. And yes, I want to read it. I actually brought it with me on my Portugal trip, I think, in August. So at that point in time, I was close to picking it up. I just didn't have a lot of time in Portugal. So definitely staying. I'm gonna hold up like a smaller amount. Like, ta-da! But this is totally not the full list. All right, I have added them all onto one single pile. And those are 15 books. 15 books for which I am unsure whether I want to continue with them or not. 15 books that now have to go into a try chapter video. Now that does mean that 35 books on that list, 35 books that I have still left on my shelves that I haven't read yet, are books that I am still very much interested in, which is a nice balance and hopefully some of these 15 other books will also still survive the try chapter round. Like the other way around would be more perfect, of course, because then I would have way less books to still get around to, but it's obviously not the sort of like goal. The goal of that try chapter tag is not to get rid of as many books as possible. It's just to make sure that the books that I am going to be prioritizing over the coming year are actually books that I do want to read, aren't the types of books that I, to some means or another, accumulated over the years and that are just basically kind of baggage at this point in time. That are the type of books that would probably just stick around forever on my bookshelves without me reading it if I didn't have this Your TBR project. So that is going to be it for today's video. Let me know if there's one book that you could get rid of off your shelves now. What book would it be? And then get rid of it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you guys for a future one. Bye!